Good morning, good morning, good morning, community. How are you? Good afternoon to the West Coast. Good afternoon to the East Coast, and good morning to the West Coast. How are you? How are you, my dear? DeVerney, did I say that right? How are you? Where are you? Where are you watching from? So, I am Jenenne Macklin, transformational speaker. I'm a wealth guide, a wealth coach, and catalyst, and I hopped on here, I guess, in March, really as a challenge to myself to be more present on my page and have done fairly good at being here just about every day for the last 3 or 4 months. I am here to empower you, to inspire you, to encourage you to stay on focus, stay on task, to create the life that you want to live and create the experiences you want in your life, no matter what's going on out in the world, because we still have to live a life. I wanted to hop on. I didn't get to you yesterday. I actually wasn't feeling well. But Wednesday, I took my son to the protests. We went to the Black Lives Matter protests in downtown Los Angeles. The focus there is really on defunding the police. And it was a peaceful protest. So if you're thinking about going to a protest in your area, be mindful of where it is, where it's going to be taking place, and I would encourage you to go. I think it's amazing, and since I'm such a spiritual person, I think it's a divine order that people are off from work, the young children are out of school, young adults are off from work. So it has basically freed us up to be able, if we wanted to participate. There's no, I can't take off from work, or I'll get fired, or I don't want to take a sick day. There's nothing preventing you from being part of this process at this point. It is truly history making. So we went. I don't even know the numbers, but there were quite a few people. It easily had to be 3 or 4 thousand people down there. And we had our mass. People did honor the 6 feet if you asked for it. When we sat down, people spread themselves out. And when we were standing, people were making their own space for 6 feet. They had water for us. They had great Gatorade. They had sandwiches. All of that was there. And we just kind of flowed with what was going on. If someone was cheering here, we went over there. If someone was cheering over there, we went over there. We took a knee. Whoever started a chant, I started several chants, and people chimed in. Um, we asked the police officers to take a knee with us. They were willing to do it. We had incredible speakers, particularly one powerful young woman who's in BLM, who's only 16. And she talks about the training they went through and everything. And now my son is looking it up to see if that's someplace he can land and learn and grow and be a part of. So go to the protests. It is affirming. It is powerful for you. It is calming to that spirit where you may find yourself being a little bit anxious and nervous about, oh my God, what's going to happen? What's going on in the world? It gives you some sense of calm. And it lets you know we're not in this alone. There are, I said, I think a week ago in tears, we couldn't do it by ourselves. That Martin taught us that. That's one thing we got from Martin Luther. If only black people had walked in Selma and in Montgomery, they would have shot them all. But because there were people from other nationalities who became our allies, who walked with him, and they were killed as well, but it made the movement, it gave it more credibility when it impacted everyone. And so now I see what I was asking for is for everyone to join us. We cannot do it alone. I saw everyone downtown Los Angeles on Wednesday. Everyone, men, women, all nationalities, all ages. Women were there with their children, fathers were there with their sons, all there together, peacefully, talking, interacting, and listening. So do not miss out on this. Don't be afraid to say, oh, I can't go, I might get sick. We're going to get sick with something anyway. So wear your mask, put on your gloves, and create the space you feel that you need. But allow this to be someplace where you land. It's a great experience. I suspect we'll go once a week. I asked him, did he want to go again today? He's like, no, Ma, that was a lot. We'll go next week. So we'll go at least once a week. The Watts riots, I was here for those riots. That riot, I think, lasted for 6 days. We are now on day 10, if not day 11, with no stopping in sight. So do it for yourself and for your heart. Hi, Mary Nicholson. The other thing I wanted to bring up is that we have an apology from Drew Brees, and that is interesting. It's interesting. If you remember, Colin Kaepernick took a knee. It was thoughtful. 2016, he even counseled with someone about the decision he was making. How could I make an impact? How could I make a statement? How could I bring attention to heightened awareness about police brutality? Simple thing was to take a knee. Simple. But what you may not realize is that the media, owned by either 3 or 4 white families, is the one who really sweeps through information and decides what you're going to hear. So based on what the media fed America, Drew was able to say he missed the mark. And we were saying that back then. The news media took this story and said it was a disrespect for the flag. This didn't have anything to do with the flag. The American flag is the American flag. That it was a disrespect to the vets. I'm a vet. It didn't disrespect me, that child bending on his knee. But because that was what the media fed America, that's what you believed. All that young man was saying is, you've got to pay attention to the fact that we are not being treated equal. You need to pay attention to the police brutality that is happening in our communities. And when you think of Breonna Taylor, in our homes, that's impacting our children, our family, and our lives. But no, that message got lost. So here we are again, 4 years later, looking at this same issue. However, we owe Kaepernick. He planted the seed. He at least brought it to our attention. He was slandered. He lost his job. Even though they brought him back, some months ago to try out, nobody wanted to pick him up because they said it was going to be too much publicity. So nobody wanted to deal with him. So here we are again. So it's important that you understand that most of America missed the mark on what Colin Kaepernick was saying. But I'll give you some leeway in that it was the media that switched the story. And the media changes all the stories. I don't know why you look at 247 for news. But they changed the story. They focused it on the flag. Well, of course, all of America's like, oh my God, the flag, the flag. And then they focused it on our vets. So of course we're upset about our vets. But that was not his message. His message is the same message we have today that we've had since Martin. We've had this message since the 60s. It's been like 40 or 50 years now that there is police brutality that's happening at an alarming rate in our communities that's impacting not just the men that you're hearing now, because they've talked about Trayvon Martin and now we have George Floyd. We haven't even begun to talk about what's happening to black women in America. We haven't even begun to look at, from what I understand, for Breonna Taylor, they haven't even arrested the officers. They came into her house and shot her. And it was the wrong house. What's the delay in the rest? So this is what we're dealing with, and this is what we're talking about. One of the people on my post last week said she doesn't let it in her heart. She said, but I don't know what to do. So let me give you something simple to do. Why don't you watch some movies? And let me give you some movies. We've been talking about this. It was back in 1989 that Spike Lee did a movie called Do the Right Thing. It reflects what we see now. It reflects what we've seen over the years. And it was a simple story. It was in New York that it was Radio Raheem had been choked to death by the police. So this is the ongoing story in our communities with America. So he was choked to death by the police, and there ended up being this enormous uprising in Chicago. And Spike Lee's always in his own movies. And I think it starts with him throwing a garbage can and breaking out the window. And it just explodes from then on. So look at that. You want to see and get some sense of it? Look at Do the Right Thing. Look at a movie called, and Do the Right Thing is on YouTube. Look at a movie called Fruitvale Station. It's his last day. Go look at what his life is like. Go back and look at, it's on YouTube. It's there for you. Go look at Selma, the Montgomery March. That was Martin. Go look at that. It's on YouTube as well. You want something really powerful? Look at 13. Look at 13. It's on Netflix, and it speaks to the mass incarceration of black men, going back to the 13th Amendment in 1865. And then feel free to check out and look at BLM hashtag Black Lives Matters, Whose Streets. That's on YouTube as well. So that at least gives you some stories that you can look at. Um, the one movie that got me, and it was the Central Park Five. And to this day, that movie hurts my heart because there was one young man who made a decision. And if he had just made a different decision, he wouldn't even been involved. But because he made the decision, he was the one that ended up in jail the longest. He was the one that was really innocent. He had nothing to do. It's just the friend said, hey, you want to go or not go? And the cop was like, well, you can go with your friends. Instead of him leaving and running to go get help and telling somebody what was going on, he went along with his friends. And what he went through and the length of time that he stayed in there longer than anyone else to this day still breaks my heart. So feel free to go look at that. I just looked at that 4 or 5 months ago on Netflix. Those will give you some insight, some stories, some movies that capture what's at the root of what you see happening on the streets, but more importantly, what you see happening globally. 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 It's not just in the little areas of New York and Detroit and Chicago and Los Angeles and Chicago, like, sorry, I know I said that twice, like the media which would want you to see. It's just this. It's all over the United States and it's all over the world. The treatment, what the police are doing, the brutality, even if you see it now during the curfews. I mean, they're still snatching people out the car. There's a picture this morning of a gentleman who had to be, they said an older gentleman, looked like he's 70, and they just knocked him down. So that's what this issue is about. And many of you, depending on the communities you live in, don't have to deal with it. You don't have to deal with the nervousness about, do I call the police if I need help? It is a second and third thought for us. What will it mean if we call the police and they come to our home? Will they come with it like they have some sense? Will they come in with their preconceived notions and ideals and prejudices and biases? We consider all of that before we call the police. That's not something most of America has to consider. So those are some movies that you can look at. And I thought I put down below on the page, I put the experiment below for you to see it. That would make it real simple for you to look at all of the students there on the field. And it shows you what we're up against as far as just basic living in life. It is incredible. So feel free to watch that. The other issue for us that we're bringing up more and more is what's happening to black women. What's happening to black women? I mean, Breonna Taylor was shot in her home. They were serving an order, I guess, on the wrong address. And because the boyfriend shot because he thought someone was breaking in, they shot 20 rounds. One shot, 20 rounds? Pamela Turner. There's Dominique Clayton, and there's the woman that I don't see why, and we're not even speaking about. I don't know what happened to her. I remember she was at home either with her grandson, her nephew, babysitting, and her back was turned. She was looking at the TV. They were playing video games, and she was shot by an officer from outside. We haven't even begun to talk about what's happening to black women in America. We haven't even put that on the table yet. We're just trying to take care of the black men, our black youth, boys and girls. Then we need to widen it, which is why when we say Black Lives Matter, it's black women, it's black LGBTQ+, it's black elderly, it's black homeless, it's all black citizens, as Jane Elliott would say, that we are looking at needing your help and your support. So she is being brought up more and more and more because to this day, no one's been charged for killing her. That's what happens to us. People kill us and it's like, okay, next. Who's going to be held accountable? What's taking so long? They enter a house and shoot. I mean, is it really that confusing about what needs to happen? So when that happens, and we have to sit and watch it, it says to us, oh, your life doesn't matter. We'll get to you. You're dead, so what? One less N-word on the planet, probably. Someone's saying that back there in the back very quietly. So we've been living with it the whole time we've been here. Racism is intrinsically in part of America. You can't get away from it. It started when You decided to go to Africa and bring human beings here as your leverage to build this country for free, and chose not to pay them, not to do anything but abuse them. You started this, America. We did not jump up and down and say, hey, take us, we want to go. Africa was absolutely beautiful and magnificent. They had their own teachings, they had their own religion, they had their own principles, they had their own everything. Africa was abundant, which is why you robbed it. So don't get mad at us that it keeps coming up. Don't get upset with us that it's going to keep coming up. It has to, as long as we continue to live in America. It's integrated. It's like trying to take cells out of our skin. How do you do it? So it just has now become a topic of conversation. It's something that we live with from the time we're born, depending on where you are, until the time we die. It's just the heaviness. It's just a state of consciousness. It's just a way of being. So please educate yourself, allies. We need you. They're pulling you out of cars and shooting and stomping on you just like they're stomping on us. But it's not going to stop what's happening at this point. This has been cultivating easily since Martin. Since Bill Clinton put in the, was it him that did the 3 strikes? Since all the politicians put everything in place that really began to make it very, 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 very narrow for us. Since it was the 3 strikes that ended up putting so many black men in prison. And men are in prison now for the same marijuana that's now free and illegal for everybody. Have we let them out of prison yet? No. No. I mean, there's so much atrocities and the dichotomy of what's going on in America that it's amazing that you can be blind to it, but I understand how you can. It's easy not to see it if you're not in the community. I put a long letter on my page, Facebook page yesterday from an attorney, and he helped make it clear, which I hadn't thought about. He was saying for the average white American, when it comes to your friends, that you may not necessarily have any black friends. So when it comes to understanding us or understanding who we are or what we're all about, that escapes you because that's not necessarily what you experience. That's not what you're around. That's not what you understand. And there's no seeking out to understand us or what we're about. It's just believing what the media says to you that we're about, but not who we really are, and seeing us as human beings and having a value. I think that's what hurts the most. They took our history out of the books. They don't want anyone to know the contributions we made. It's like push them down, stomp them down. Don't let anybody know how magnificent, amazing, and beautiful and powerful of a people and kind of a people that we are. I can't imagine, I can't even tell you how many pictures I've taken over the last 5 years of crisis where water dams have broken, people have had their cars in streams, and there'll be a black man holding his hand, trying to get somebody out their car and reaching his hand to someone else to be this human chain to help save people. You want somebody to save you, it'll be a black person that'll jump out their car first to come and save you and help you. We are some of the meekest, the sweetest people, but the media has allowed you to create a completely different image of who we are. And if you haven't taken it upon yourself to educate yourself, then you don't know. You don't know it. You don't know it. You don't know about it. You don't know anything unless you've been taught, told, or been willing to do your own research. To do your own research. How did we get here? Do you know what all we've created? Potato chips, that's ours. The first computer, that's ours. I mean, the list goes down and down and down and down. So you'd have to ask, why is America so hell-bent on showing us in such a negative way to the rest of you so that you refuse to love us, support us, be our allies? What have we done to you personally except for been around? You know, I grew up where men went to, when I was in school, black men could become plumbers. Black men could become electricians. Black men could do masonry. It was in my high school. They were trained. Was it? Who took that out of the schools? I think it was in the 70s. They pulled all of that out of the schools. I'm always wondering why there's not a black man walking in my house to fix my dishwasher. Why there isn't a black man walking into my house to take care of my electrician. Why are there always only Latinos? Well, all of that was pulled out of our community. The ways for our men to be able to support our families were pulled out of our community. My uncle worked in this community, lived in this community. When I was growing up, it was called Bethlehem Steel. It was right on Central in Los Angeles. Huge plant. He worked in the community. We lived in the community. Everything was there. Well, all of that was pulled out of our communities, and they were basically stripped bare. That took jobs. That took livelihoods. That took stability out of our community. Every place we've gone to try and say, help us here or help us there, it's been met with opposition. So now we get to come together again. And I suspect we're going to keep coming together and keep coming together, because the way the universe seems to do things, there are situations that come up that seem to spark something, and that brings us closer and closer and closer and closer together, closer to a oneness, closer to being humanity, not black citizens and white citizens and Asian citizens and Mexican citizens. You know who created that? The men who sat at the table back then who created America. We label everybody by name, numbers, names, and colors to separate. Well, we can come together under the umbrella of humanity. We're human. We are, well, for the most part, we have eyes, two eyes, we have nose, we have mouth. We're human. We're created from one energy, one power, and one presence. And that God did not make a mistake when he created all of us. But if you ask God today, God would say, I created humanity. That's what I created. You guys broke it down into these small pieces of separation. But what I created humanity. And that's what we get to stand on. That's what we get to be grateful for. So as we go forward in this together, it's as humanity. I can't even tell you the signs that I saw Asian people carrying, youth carrying, saying Black Lives Matter. Every single name of every person who's ever been wrongly shot or on their banners. On their banners. And there's a solution. Defund the police. Take that money, put it in the communities, and let us police ourselves. Now, that's a whole new strategy, I know. I'm not sure how well it's going to go over. I'm not sure what they're going to do with it or about it, but it's some place to start. It's some place to begin to look at how we can do some things differently, how we can take care of ourselves as we move forward, how we can actually take on the responsibility. We don't mind taking on the responsibility. Whoa, that got posted 3 times. Let that go. Take on the responsibility of being responsible to each other, loving each other, and caring for each other. So this gentleman wrote, and it's on my page, he said 40% of all white people do not have any black friends. 55% of white people only have 1 black friend. The average black person has 8 white friends. He says in his lived experience, he personally knows 2 white people with more than 1 black friend. I have a number of close white friends, so close I call them my family. These people clothe me, feed me, shelter me, protect me, and fund me if I ask. I love them and they love me. Yet if I'm honest, I am their only black friend. So how do you get to know us? How do you get to engage with us if you don't know us? If I got black friends, Asian friends, I have friends. It's amazing. When I read that, I thought I hadn't even thought about that. We're open and have all kinds of friends while you have been given such a picture that your life is narrow. You don't have any black friends, Asian friends, Latino friends, Native American friends. I have friends of all races that I can call, that I can talk to if I need support. So therein lies some of the challenges, is that you're not exposed to us. So you really don't have a good sense of who we are except for the concept that media gives you. So it's necessary for you to choose to know about us. We know you. We have to know you. We have to be aware of you. We have to learn you. That's what we do. So be open to understanding us. We're not a, you have to remember, America came and got us. We're not the fighters. We're not. That's what gets me is Black people as a people, we're not the fighters. We're the meek people. We are the doctors. We're the lawyers. We're the meek people. Now, I guess if we have to, we will. But our temperament on its own, that's not our temperament. That's not our temperament. And when they took all of the jobs out of our community, when they brought all of the cocaine into our community, then black men had to decide, well, since you took away plumbing, you took away electrician, you took away masonry, and you give us drugs. So now they've got to decide, what do I do? Do I go ahead and sell drugs so I can feed my family? Or go I find some job for a low wage? America has orchestrated all of this. And to those of you out 5 or 6 degrees, you don't get it. You don't know it. You don't understand it. But when someone's taking everything out of your community of value that keeps your community whole, that keeps and funds your community, what's left? What's left? And it has systematically happened throughout all of the communities in the United States. You can look in Chicago, you can look in Detroit, you can look in Los Angeles, you can in Atlanta, you can look in New York, you can in Philadelphia, all of them. It's been pulled out. So what are we supposed to do? So when you begin to understand the systemic racism, the redlining, the lines of property lines that are drawn so that people live in one community, but they won't want to live in another community because our community is deemed as whatever. It's not safe. It's not good. It's a lot of black people. All of that is systematic. So that's what we're looking at. That's what we're up against. And that's why we're asking you to be our allies. Obviously, God put us all here for a reason. Obviously, God put black people here for a reason. But if you ask God, God will say, I didn't put black people. I put humans here. And I expect humans to get along. And the rest was up to us. So as you go forth this weekend, the rains came here again, at least on the West Coast. I figured it always calms things down. It's perfect timing. I know we may head back up to the protest today because they're putting roses at the city hall because of the police brutality. We'll rest over the weekend, get yourself some sleep, and then we'll start again next week because there's even more. It took them, a week or so to finally bring in the other police officers who were involved in the case with Floyd. But that still leaves all the women who we aren't even talking about yet. We haven't even begun to focus on all of it. And in the end, I know for you, white America, it is just too much. Trust me. Think about us. It's doubly too much for us. And in spite of it, we have to raise our children. We have to protect them from the police. We have to give them walking, marching orders of what they can and cannot do when they walk out of this house. We still go to school. We still go to college. We still get our master's degrees. We still get our PhDs. We still run companies and we still build companies and we still contribute to this company called America in spite of how we're treated. So we want you to be our allies. We need you to be our allies. We need everybody to just stop with all the race and come together as humanity, because what you do to help us is going to help everyone else in the generations behind us. And it doesn't stop there. Like George Floyd said, you need to vote in every single election between now and June. We need to now start thinking about how we're going to get people to the polls while the person in charge decides if we're going to do vote by mail or not, because he thinks if we do vote by mail, then he may not win. Don't be surprised if at the last minute it'll be we're going to the polls. So we need to start thinking now about what kind of transportation we're going to create for people to get to the polls. All those buses that aren't being used for schools, we need to be contacting whoever to see if those buses are going to go around and pick up people to get them to the polls. We're going to have to make sure there's enough polling booths, because from what I remember the last election, I think it was Jesse Jackson who had to get the polling stations and take them to somewhere in Atlanta because they didn't even have enough polling booths. And that's where we're going to run into difficulties. If the polls close early, we need to have a holiday. I don't know what they want to call it, but a holiday on election day so people don't have to choose between do I vote or do I go to work. It shouldn't even be a choice. So there's still other things we're going to have to do. This is the way we have to live. Plan A, plan B. If we can vote by mail, we know it may be a landslide, but we know that may not happen. So if we're going to vote in the booth, I will take my Lysol, I will put on my gloves, I will put on 2 masks, but I will be in the booth to vote if that's what it boils down to. So we have to stay in the moment with this, but we also have to think 2 or 3 steps ahead. because that's the way we've always had to live our lives. So it's amazing what's happening. I am hopeful, so hopeful, so hopeful. I looked at the special last night. I have Spectrum and I don't look at TV, but for some reason I turned to channel 1, which isn't a channel, and I ended up looking at this amazing story of the last 2 freedom riders here in Los Angeles who were helping people back in the 60s do the freedom riders. They were right there with them, and they too are hopeful. We are pulling on the young folks, and I always say young folks because I'm really like over like 55, but I won't let you know. So we're pulling on the young folks. They were like so happy that the young people out there, that we're coming together, that we're doing it together, and that they are ready to train us if we need more information. So they're 2 still freedom riders that live in Los Angeles. I think they're like 80 years old. And they're saying, we have the power, we have the potential. Yes, unite, continue to work together. I keep telling you, turn off that TV, look at news on some other channel because, what do I want to say, United States news, our media is being manipulated. But I'm hopeful. We are making progress. We are moving. Just the fact that we bring up a heightened awareness about what's happening and people are willing to listen. Just listen. And I said to you on one of my other lives, Michelle Obama said it to us. She said, I have her mug and it says, tell me your story. We don't know each other's story. We're just reacting to the color of a skin. You don't know somebody's story. You don't know what they went through. You don't know how long they had to work or how hard they had to work. You don't know the story. So when we know each other's stories, we can have empathy. We can see where we connect the dots. We can see where we overlap on our journeys. So ask somebody. When someone says, hey, how you doing? I'm doing good. How are you? Well, I'm doing okay. Well, what does that mean? What's going on for you? Be inquisitive. Be willing to know. It breaks down the walls and it brings us close to the humanity that we really are on this planet. So have an incredible weekend. And by that, I mean get some rest. Get some rest. The energy on this planet is just pulsating. We've got a lunar moon. I think that's tonight or tomorrow night. That is the moon before the summer. So that's impacting the energy. There's so much invisible energetic transformation that's happening that we aren't even aware of. But that's what this is for me. I never called these times unprecedented. I would not let the media decide my narrative. For me, it has always been transformational. And transformation is difficult. Transformation is uncomfortable. I claimed it as evolving. We're evolving into something different, something bigger, something more magnificent than we've been. So no, and maybe that is unprecedented. But I think at some point we were humanity. At one point we were this amazing people and specimens on this planet. And then gradually as greediness stepped in and money and capitalism stepped in, it changed. So it is bringing us back to the oneness and the truth of who we are. But you know what? It's still tiring. It still takes a lot of work. And particularly to teach our young people. It's still a lot. So get you some rest. Do something fun. It's damp here. I guess it's cool. Last weekend we were in the pool relaxing and reading and studying and looking at movies. Relax. Get yourself a break. Turn off the TV. I gave you a list of movies you could look at. They're all powerful. They will all give you insight into what's really going on and bubbling underneath the surface of what we call America. And I'm sorry if it offends anyone that I made America a small a. But right now, I figure in my mind, we're playing small. We're not being a capital A right now. We're playing small. So it's time for us to step into what it means to be a big, tall, capital, strong A America. So have a good one. Take good care. Sorry I missed you yesterday. I was just tired. And I think my son had to get his hair cut too. But take good care. We are truly in this together. I really feel like the prayers that we put out a couple of weeks ago when we said we can't do it alone, and people start to respond and they start to step up. And once we got rid of the rioters and we got rid of the looters, now the people can come out of your homes, go to the march. You will not get sick and get the virus just because you go to the march. Keep your mask on, create your own distance, but it will give you a sense of involvement, and it may also give you a sense of relief of knowing you participated in something that could potentially change the way we've been interacting on this planet. Give us greater hope. Give us greater unity. give us greater camaraderie for each other as we walk this journey together. Take good care. Have a great day. Bye for now.